Good morning. Today we find ourselves in the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 2, verse 23. He starts out, I thank you and praise you, God of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and power. It continues, but I'm going to hold off on that for a minute. The God of my ancestors. I come from a family that has believed in God for several generations, and I think that made my decision to follow God a lot easier than having never heard of him and starting to believe from brand new. The interesting thing about this is Daniel is in captivity. He has been stolen away from his city because it has been destroyed. King Nebuchadnezzar took him and some of his friends. He says the royal kids that were able to learn quickly and well, and he used them to work in his kingdom. Daniel was one of those young men, and he says, I thank you. He prayed to God for a reason. The king had a dream, and the king was troubled. The dream goes with the statue that the king makes, and it starts out with gold and silver, then bronze and iron, and then like stone and clay, and this big boulder comes and crashes it all to the ground. The king is troubled, and none of his wise people know what it means. And then because he's a little bit upset, he says, you know what? Y'all are going to die unless you can tell me the dream and interpret it. After this passage, Daniel goes up to the king and says, hey, what you asked us was impossible. Nobody can do it. But I know a God who can, and that God has answered my prayers. Daniel says, God has made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king. So God tells Daniel what's going through the king's brain and what the dream means. Daniel was living in exile. We said that before. But this means he doesn't have the temple to worship at. He doesn't have the regular routine of going to church. And he still remembers. He remembers when he was able to do that. And we see that Daniel very strongly believes in his faith. He refuses to give in to the dietary changes. He follows the dietary rules that are laid out in the Bible. So even when he's not surrounded by people who are worshiping God, surrounded by people who are praying, he still remembers. And I love that he just remembers to give thanks. God didn't have to answer that prayer in the positive, but it was in God's plan to help change King Nebuchadnezzar, maybe to help him go in a different and better path. It doesn't work out that way, but we know that even when we feel alone, we're living far away, college kids grow up, move off. And I think that is one of our prayers, that they'll still remember the faith that they grew up with. What are you doing with your children in your family to remember what God has done for the generations that came before us? Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you later. Bye.